part, that is memory, we will be in a position to remember the things. Whatever we think, whatever we understand, whatever we know. So if you want to memorize it, remember it. So you need to have the concentration. Memory and concentration both are the important aspects in our daily life activities. So actually the one important definition of memory is that memory is the reproduction of whatever we learned, whatever we understand, whatever we experienced in the same form and the same order. Memory is the reproduction of learned aspects, experiences, and whatever we learned, whatever we pursue, whatever we experienced, that should be reproduced in the same form and the same manner. That is the main process of memory. So without reproducing in the same form and the same order, you can't say it is a memory. In examination, where a student has to recall the matter and present it in the same form, in the same order. If he present in the same form and same order, then only it is possible to get the good marks. So in reproduction, we can demonstrate that the remember aspects without any disturbances, without any disorder. The same form and same order we need to reproduce. We need to present in the examination papers. So in the memory, there are some stages of memory. Whatever we learn, whatever we understand, that should be coding in our own way. Coding and coding. The first step in the memory system is to get the sensor information, whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we learn, whatever we understand, into a form that the brain can use. So in the form of whatever we learn, whatever we see, so we need to encoding in our sensor information, whatever the sensor information, we need to encode it, we need to store it. So what's the receiving information through the sense organs and transform from the information into a form that is usable in the brain storage system. Whatever we learn, whatever we see, whatever we perceive, that should be transformed into the brain storage system. Then people, for example, when people hear a sound, their ears convert the sound wave corresponding to their spoken words into a kind of code that memory accepts the space that code in their memory. This is the formation. This is the whatever the information that should be converted into a systematic way. Whatever we see, that should be stored in a form of our brain system. Spoken words into a kind of code that memory accepts the place that code in their memory. So whatever the words, whatever the sounds, that should be stored in our memory. This is one system that is called encoding. Whatever we see, we hear, we learn, that should be stored in a systematic way from our brain system. That is the encoding way. Then storage, whatever the procedure in encoding, that should be stored in a systematic way. For example, in one stage of memory, people can hold on to the information about 20 seconds. So here, whatever we learned, that should be stored in a specific time. Some memory concepts, for example, if it is not that much of easy, that much of important, so we better to keep in only for some few seconds, that is storage. Then retrieval means getting it out whenever it is needed. Whatever the storage, whatever the information in the storage, whatever the information in the form of store. So there should be retrieval, getting it out whenever it is needed. We need to reproduce it. So the stages of memory, first one is the encoding, initial recording of our information. Whatever the information we gathered, that should be recorded in the encoding way. Then second is storage. Whatever the information stored for future use, we need to storage that. We need to store that information. We need to keep in a systematic way in our storage system. That is the second. stage is called storage. First one is the encoding, second is the storage system, third is the retrieval, recovery of stored information. Whatever the information stored in our brain in a systematic way, that should be okay. So this is the three stages of memory. One is encoding, second is storage, third is getting it, or you can say retrieval. Then what are the types of memory? There are some types of memories. One is sensory memory. This is sensory memory, is a temporary memory. Sensory memory is nothing but a temporary memory. Hello, are you able to understand? Am I
Yes, sir.
clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So here, temporary storage of sensory information is only for few seconds. That means 1 or 2 seconds or few seconds only. Whatever we see, whatever we hear, we will keep in a systematic way. That is sensory system. That is sensory memory. Second one is the short-term memory. Short-term memory is the brief storage of information. First one is sensory memory. That is temporary storage of information. Only for few seconds. Not even 1 or 2 seconds, but only for few seconds. You can say 1-2 seconds only. Okay. So this is the first type of memory that's called sensory memory. Second is the short-term memory. Short memory means brief storage. First one is the temporary storage of memory. Second is the brief storage of information. Sensory memory, only temporary storage of sensory information. In second type of memory, like short-term memory, brief storage of information, that is currently whatever the information is gathered. In sensory memory, only for a few seconds, you will storage the information. In short-term memory, up to 20 seconds of time, we will storage the information in our memory. That is known as the short-term memory. Third one is the long-term memory. In long-term memory, duration will be for long period. For example, in sensory memory, just whatever we hear, suddenly we will turn our head to that side, only for 1-2 seconds only. That is, whatever we see, whatever we hear, just only for a few 1-2 seconds, we will turn your head to the other side, where we got the information, where we got the sound. That is only for the 1-2 seconds only. Then short-term memory, only for few seconds. For example, if you want to know that there is ticket numbers in your train, only for some few minutes or seconds only, we will know that information. We will write that information, or we will just memorize that information only for few seconds or minutes. Okay, that is the short-term memory. After completion of that work, you will forget that information. You will forget that is information whatever you got from the temporary memory. Then third one is the long-term memory. Long-term memory means that memory is in the permanent storage of memory, that is known as the long-term memory. Whatever the information we receive from the place, we will keep in a different system. For example, your surname and our parents and our siblings' names. This will be the permanent memory, or you can say long-term memory. For long, this information will be stored in our memory. That is known as the long-term memory. Okay. Short-term memory, also known as the working memory. Only for few seconds or for few minutes only, we will keep that information in our storage. That is known as the short-term memory. In long-term memory, information in the long-term memory is permanent. So it is for long information, long time. It's only for it is a long-term memory. For example, as I mentioned, our surname, our parents' name, siblings' names. These are all for the long period. That is the reason we call them as the long-term memory aspects. Then there are some different types of long-term memory also. For example, procedure, or you can say episodal things, or if it is, for example, whatever we learned from your own experience. Generally, always some practical knowledge also will be given. Why? Because theoretical knowledge, whatever the knowledge from your theory, so that will not be for a long term. If it is, you have any learning experiences, so that learning experience will be for long time or long term, you can say. That is the reason practical knowledge is more important when you memorize the things. So long-term memory, we have the long this duration of our memory. Okay. Then here there are some systems, or you can say there are some process of getting very good memory. That is, first one is whatever we learn, whatever we understand, whatever we experience, whatever we perceive, that should be registered in our mind. If you want to get the good memory, registration is the first part. Registration, or you can say coding and encoding in your mind first. Number two, retention. Retention means how far the learned aspects are there in your mind. For example, in our, especially in the school system and the college system also, whatever the teacher taught in the same day, so better to revise it within the 24-hour time. What happens if you or if we revise it within the 24 hours time? So that will be renewed for some long period. That is the reason retention process is the most important thing in the memory. First one is registration. Second is the retention, or you can say storage for a long period of time. Retention. Then recalling. Recalling in long-term memory, recalling whenever it is possible. Better to recall whatever we learned, whatever we experienced, whatever we perceived. Okay, that is the reason in education system, some examinations will be conducted. That is known as the terminal examination or periodical examinations. Likewise, for example, that is nowadays Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit. For completion of that unit, they conduct one type of examination that is called unit examination. Nowadays, formative examination. Okay. And final examination will be the summative examination. Unit examination means of completion of one unit. So the examination will be conducted only on the particular unit, so that the children, the students will memorize that particular unit. What are the concepts in that unit? They will recall in the examination of Unit 1. So recalling is one important part in the memory. First one is registration, means decoding. Second is the retention. Retention means how much time it is there in your mind. Okay, retention. For example, today completion of the lesson is a 45 minutes or 50 minutes class. After completion of that lesson, after completion of that day, so evening time, for example, what are the taught in the classroom for 47 minutes and 50 minutes time. So you will revise the same concepts. If we revise in the same day, 45 minutes time, the time is classroom teaching, time is 45 minutes. And after completion of the class or evening timing, if you memorize, if you study that, if you read that lesson for half an hour, that means whenever you read that lesson, whenever you memorize that lesson, that will be continue in your mind. That is retention is that. Morning time, 45 minutes class. Then evening, 30 minutes or 35 minutes reading. So 40 minutes or 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 75 minutes. The concepts are there in your mind. That is retention. Then after completion of 1 week, if any unit examination and any examination is conducted, so in order to prepare the examination, we will read the same lesson, the same concept. We will memorize the concepts. See, for example, if 1 hour time is allotted to read that lesson, to read the topic. So first time when the teacher taught the topic, that is 45 minutes time. Same day, if we read it half an hour time, 45 minutes and half an hour time, it is around that is 75 minutes time. Again, if you read that same lesson or topic, in order to prepare the examination before the unit examination after 1 week of your lesson, after 1 week of your classroom. So 1 hour, see 75 minutes, again 60 minutes, 1 hour, 35 minutes. This is the way of retention or that is retention in the same it is topic. So first one is registration, second is retention, third is recalling whenever it is needed. Without even the books also, you can recall it. This is the best tips of memory, the best way of memory improving. If you want to improve the memory, this is the way, first of all, with your concentration, with the person's concentration, the memory will be improved. So concentrating, focusing on the particular subject or the topic when the teacher or the lectures are teaching the subject. That is concentration. So here, registration, retention, recalling, and relearning. That relearning will be different type. One is short-term learning and long-term learning. Part learning, you can say whole learning. Part learning means, for example, if it is the 5 pages topic or 5 pages lesson, better to read that topic of 5 pages. Partly means 1 page or 1 paragraph first. Recall that 1 paragraph. Then second paragraph. Then recalling that third paragraph or third page. Then recall that. Then fourth one. This is the part learning. Okay. Then in some cases, whole learning of completion of each and every part, each and every paragraph, complete reading of the total passage or maybe total topic. That is the whole learning. So part learning and whole learning. This is the another important stage of memory. Okay. So here, after completion of this part learning or whole learning, part reading or whole reading, then overall reproducing of that learned aspect. Whatever we learn, we need to reproduce it in the same form, in the same manner. So this is the various levels of memory. So if, for example, in different models of information processing model, levels of processing model, parallel distributed processing model. So information processing model, here the information enters into the sensory system, briefs reaching the sensory memory. Then selective attention, for example, whatever we read, overall reading aspect we can't memorize. So what are the selective part in that particular passage? We need to memorize it. We need to recall it. We need to reproduce it. We need to practice it. Then only it is easy to memorize. This is one type of information processing model. Then levels of processing model, information processing model. In information processing model, one is information formation. That may be, for example, short term. That may be transferred to the long term. In short term stage only, rehearsal or you can say relearning is important. So in information processing model, one is short after completion of your information gathering, after registration, better to keep in the rehearsal mode, or you can say short-term memory mode. Okay, what are the short-term memory? If you practice it, that will be transferred to the long-term memory. So that is one model of information processing model. Then there are different levels of processing model. That is, one is parallel model or parallel processing model. So here in this case, the levels of processing model is memory model that assumes that how long a memory will be remembered depends on the depth, that is that effect made understand the meaning to which information is processed. So the general idea of the model is that an item entering into memory system is analyzed in stages. The early stage analyze perceptual properties of items such as visual. Later stage analyze the meaning, including that category is first into a connection model. So here, whatever the information, when we visualize that information, when we experience that information, that will be there in your memory for the long period also. So one is information processing model. Then there are different levels of processing model. Then parallel distribution model. What are the information you gather? What are the information we gathered? That will be processed and in a different ways. In different ways means all these different ways can be used to explain some questions to how the memory works. Although information processing mode of memory may take a center stage in important to remember that concepts of the levels which information is processed. And here parallel distribution process, memory process are proposed to take place at the same time for a long network of neural connections. So here in this memory, it is seen as a stimulus process with the creation and storage of memories taking place across series of mental networks. For example, if you learn in a theoretical mode, of completion of the theory, if you practice it, so what are the concepts you learned in the theoretical model that will be memorized in the practical aspects also. So this is different ways of our model that is known as the parallel model. At the same time, we need to learn different aspects. We will learn different aspects in the parallel ways. So here, if you want to memorize the things, you want to distribute the things in a different way. So here, one method is that if you want to improve that one, that is linked method of links. So some links we have to keep. Means when you want to enrich that encoding, whatever the mode it is used, so better to use it in a different way. Okay, some systems we will keep in a different way. For example, acronyms, acronyms. For example, WIBGR, violet, indigo, blue, green. This is the 7 colors. So WIBGR is the one way of memorizing the things. What are the word in the first? What are the letter in the first word? What are the first letter in the word? We need to remember that. By remembering that, by recalling that, we'll find out the actual word. So that this is the one way of improving our memory. One of the best techniques for improving memory is called PQR method. It involves 6 stages. One is preview, questioning, reading, reflecting, reciting, and reviewing. So this is one technique of improving our memory. For example, in 6 stages, preview. Okay. So whatever the topic you learned, better to preview it. Second is questioning. So you need to question yourself. Third one is the reading. So after completion of your preview, questioning, then you have to read properly. Then reflect, think of examples and relate it to our own knowledge. Reciting it, or you can say recalling it, and reviewing it. This is some stages of improving our memory. Whatever the memory we have to keep in our mind, storage in our mind. So, for example, there are some disorders in memory also. There are some disorders means after completion of your memory, after completion of your reading, after completion of our experience also, it's not so easy to memorize the thing because of some issues, some disorders. One disorder is that Alzheimer's disease, a progressive mental distortion that occurs common in old people. In old people, some problem is there with the memory. That is known as the Alzheimer's disease, or you can say Alzheimer's dementia. Due to the Alzheimer's dementia also, maybe some problem of memory will be arised. Then chunking, the process of grouping information into units in order to store more information in STM. STM is the short-term memory. LTM is the long-term memory. So here, memory improvement is most important thing in any type of learning. As we explained in the initial stage, memory is the most important factor in our cognition, in our thought process, because whatever we understand, whatever we learn, so better to keep in mind, then only it is easy to reproduce it. Memory is reproducing of whatever we learned, the same form and the same order. So maybe some problems may be arised in our memory, we need to check what are the main reasons of our not in position to memory. So if it is it is a biological aspects, better to check with the medical professionals, maybe psychiatry professionals. Okay. For example, if the problem is with the practicing, better to do the practicing in a proper and systematic way. So as I mentioned, concentration is the main part in the memory. Concentration and memory are the two sides of the same coin. Without memory, it's not so easy to reproduce it. If you want to having good memory, better to concentration on a particular topic. After completion of your focusing, concentration, then only it is possible to memorize. Without concentration, without focusing. For example, in our psychological process, in our psychological professionals, any type of psychological professional, listening is the most important thing. Whatever we listen, based on the listening skills only, it is easy to provide proper services to the client. So here, whatever we listen, that should be in our memory. So when we want to listen the things from the client side, better to focusing on that information. When the information is gathering, most important aspect of information gathering is that focusing, concentration, whatever the person, whatever the client giving the information, that information we need to gather. Based on the information only, we better to provide the services. So here, without getting proper information, without getting proper knowledge about the client, so it is not so easy to provide the services. So here, when we listen from the client side, then we gather the information from the client side. So it is most important thing is focusing whatever he explained, whatever he disclosed the information. So for that, concentration, focusing is important. So when we are getting the information from the client side, so better to register that. That is one type of registration. Okay. So encoding the information, or you can say retrieval the information, then storage the information. Within the three stages only, we will complete the memory part, so that we will reproduce it in the same form. If it is not reproduced in the same form and the same order, that should be forgetful. That will be forgetted. Okay. So memory, the quite opposite of memory is the forgetting. In forgetting, maybe some causes may be there in the forgetting. For example, if we are not in a position to reproduce the whatever we learned, that information, if we are not reproducing the same form and same order, that is called forgetting. Ebbinghaus, E-B-B-I-N-G, E-B-B-I-N-G, Ebbinghaus, H-A-U-S. Ebbinghaus, the famous psychologist who conducted his experiments on memory and forgetting. The name of the scientist is called Ebbing, E-B-B-I-N-G, Ebbinghaus, H-A-U-S. He conducted so many experiments on memory and forgetting. So forgetting is that if we are not reproducing whatever we have learned, whatever we experienced in the same form and the same order, that is called forgetting according to Ebbinghaus definition. So for example, VIBGR, V-I-B-G-I-E-O-R, violet, indigo, blue, green, orange, red. So here, if you are not reproducing VIBGR in the same form and same order, if you change the order, so that reproduction may be in a different form. So in forgetting, if we are not produce the learned aspect the same form and same order, that is known as the forgetting. Then there are some causes of forgetting. One is, so maybe some changes of that whatever the form, whatever the order. That is the reason. One cause of the forgetting is changing the order. Second is reconstruction of some learned aspects. Whatever the things that we reconstruct it, change it. So that is also one reason of the forgetting. Some reasons related to the organic causes. Organic causes means some causes may be related to the biological. Means, as I mentioned, amnesia, Alzheimer's disease, dementia. These are all the some biological reasons of forgetfulness. Then other important reason of forgetting is decay. Decay means after some years, automatically, after some years, whatever the learned aspects that will be deleted from our mind. That is decay. That is one important cause of forgetfulness is decay. First one is changing in our order, changing in the formation. That is number one. Number two, organic reasons. Means if there is any biological issues related to the mind, maybe Alzheimer's disease, amnesia, or dementia. These biological reasons impact the effects on the long-term memory, not only the short-term memory, even the long-term memory also. That is one reason of forgetfulness. That is biological reasons, organic reasons, you can say. Third one is the decay. Decay means, so after some years, memory traces will be deteriorated. What are the traces? What are the cues in the memory? So that will be deteriorated, or you can say decay. That will be, for example, if you are not using that particular aspect, or unless it is used properly. If it is used in a daily life activities, that should be easily memorized. For example, one day, the teacher, whatever the teacher taught the lesson topics, if it is revised in a periodical time, that is in time to time, for example, weekly once, weekly twice, or on the same day, or after some few days, it will be in the storage, it will be in the retention process. If it is not used, means, for example, teacher taught, whatever the taught by teacher, it is revised. So that is one important reason of forgetfulness, that is decay. Okay. Then in some cases, the whatever the learned aspect, forcefully, intentionally, we will want to forget it. For example, maybe some bitter experiences. Okay, that is known as the motivated forgetting. Motivated forgetfulness means wantedly, intentionally, we want to forget some bitter experience in our mind, bitter experience in our life. That is known as the motivated forgetfulness. This is also one reason of forgetfulness. Then there may be some other reasons of forgetfulness. Maybe problem of interference, problem of analysis, whatever we learned, whatever we experienced, whatever we read. So that may be not that topics may be not in a position to retrieve it. It is some problem of retrieving, maybe some emotional issues. For example, when the student reads properly, though he reads properly, due to his emotional, due to his anxiety, due to her anxiety or fear, maybe not in a position to reproduce it in the same form, in the same order. So that is problem of retrieval, problem of reproduction, problem of storage also. Okay. So for forgetfulness, problem of retrieval, problem of registration, problem of if some disturbance arises in the time of memory. So that also leads some psychological problems of also leads to forgetfulness. So and as I mentioned, amnesia, then psychological amnesia, childhood amnesia, dream amnesia, defensive amnesia, so and biological amnesia. These are all the various types of amnesia also leads to forgetfulness. In some cases, some habits like if they use some sort of drugs, some type of these marijuana like alcohol or other type of drugs. So excessive use of all these drugs also leads some type of forgetfulness. So disease of the brain, some brain dysfunctioning, you can say, disease of the brain also leads some issues related to the forgetfulness. Then some degenerative dementia. Degenerative dementia means after certain age, some old age dementia, you can say. This also leads to some psychological problems in the this forgetfulness process. So here, whatever we read, whatever we perceive, whatever we learned, in the same form, if it is in the same form, it will be under the memory. If it is not in the same form or same order, that will come under the forgetfulness. So memory and forgetfulness both are related to the procedural systems. How the process of memory, so that is systematic way, whether it is any problem of retrieval, any problem of these things. So that will be related to this. And one of important thing is that forgetfulness. Forgetfulness also most important aspect. So if you are not reproducing the learned aspects, same form and same order, that becomes under the forgetfulness. So here, the Ebbinghaus conducted some experiments related to the memory and forgetfulness. So here, in this forgetfulness, we observe some sort of disease like amnesia. Amnesia also, psychological amnesia means due to some reason, due to some emotional reasons, for example, fear, anxiety, or some issues related to their disturbances, psychological disturbances, leads to forgetfulness. That is known as the psychological reasons, you can say. Then childhood amnesia. So without even this proper readiness, if we admit the child in the hospital and in the education institution, so maybe some childhood memories, bitter memories in the childhood. As I mentioned, emotional issues or bitter experience in the childhood. These also leads some type of reason for forgetfulness, like sexual harassment, abuses, or you can say some sort of repressive thoughts. Okay, so and some type of forceful forgetfulness, or you can say motivated forgetfulness. So in childhood experiences, if any problem is there with the childhood experiences, that is also leads forgetfulness in the later stages of our mind. For example, if any bitter experiences they faced in the childhood stages, so that leads some type of forgetfulness in their later stages. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to understand? Any doubt?
Yes, sir. We are understanding, sir. Sir, can you on your video, sir?
Okay, because we have some other problem. Yeah, anyway, else. repressed memories means repressed memories. We know some defense mechanisms, defenses. You heard about the defenses?
Yes, sir.
Defense mechanism or defense. What is defenses?
Defense mechanism. We want to cope up with our pain, so we use some techniques like repression. We forcefully forget that thing.
No. What are the other defenses? Defenses means in order to
yes, sir. Cope up.
In order to cope up our ego, in order to
protect ourselves.
our ego. Hello.
Yes, sir.
In order to protect our ego, because continuous damage of ego leads some psychological disturbances. You know that. You're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in order to protect our ego, we use some defenses. Okay, like repression, regression, fantasy, displacement. These are all the
defense mechanisms.
various defense mechanism you can take. Okay.
Yes,
so in this defense mechanism, one important defense mechanism is that repression. Repression means forceful forgetfulness of our memories. Got it? Maybe bitter experience in the childhood. So forcefully, if you want to forget those experiences, that comes under repression. That is also comes under one type of defense mechanism. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes,
so
sir.
in the Sigmund Freud's personality theories. Yeah, there are three important concepts of personality theory of Sigmund Freud. One is the stages of development. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Second is the conscious, subconscious, preconscious. Third is the id, ego, superego. Yeah? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Then final one is this defense mechanism. Nearly 10 defenses we use in order to protect our ego. It is quite common in any individual's life. Yes?
Yes, sir.
So repression also one of the most important that is defenses. Out of 10 is one of the important defenses generally any individual uses in order to protect our ego. So any childhood experiences, bitter experience you can say, forcefully, intentionally, the individuals forget those bitter experiences in order to protect their ego. This forgetfulness is called motivated forgetfulness or intentional forgetfulness. As I mentioned, there are some reasons of forgetfulness. One is whatever we learned, whatever we experienced, if we are not use it, okay, that will come under decay. So one reason of forgetfulness is decay. Second reason of forgetfulness is amnesia. Amnesia, there is different type of amnesia, as I mentioned. One is childhood amnesia. Another is organic amnesia. Third one is amnesia related to the age. Or you can say Alzheimer's dementia. After 80 years or 85 years, due to their age advancement, they will forget some learned aspects or experiences or perceptions. This is also one reason of forgetfulness. Got it? That is also known as Alzheimer's dementia. The name of the scientist who propounded this dementia is called Alzheimer's. The name of the person is Alzheimer's. That is the reason this forgetfulness or dementia is called Alzheimer's dementia. Got it? Or
Yes,
any
sir.
damage of brain, any damage of brain due to some accidents, that also leads forgetfulness. In our examination point of view, you need to answer. First one is memory. What is memory? As I mentioned, there is a definition of memory. What is the definition of memory? Just now I told you. No? Anyone? Whatever we learned, whatever we experienced, whatever you perceived, if you reproduce it in the same form and the same order, that is called memory. That definition is given by Ebbinghaus. The name of the scientist conducted so many experiments on memory and forgetfulness. Ebbinghaus, E-B-B-I-N-G, Ebbinghaus, H-A-U-S. He conducted experiments on memory and forgetfulness. And he also defined the memory like reproducing in the same form and same as his memory.
It is a faculty of mind, sir, in which the information is encoded, stored, and retrieved whenever it is needed.
So encoding, then processing, storage, and retrieval.
Retrieval.
These are the stages of memory. Then types of memory. One is sensory memory.
Short-term memory.
STM, short-term memory.
Long-term memory.
Then LTM, long-term memory. Sensory memory means only for 1-2 seconds, just within short span of time. Second is the short-time memory, STM, for few minutes. Okay. Then LTM, long-time memory, sometimes for long period of time. Our surname, our parents' name, our siblings. Okay. These are all comes under the long-term memory. Long-time memory. Okay. Then another question you will face in your examination is how to improve the memory. As I mentioned, first one is concentration, focusing on a subject, focusing on a topic, focusing on any perception. Okay. Concentration, then registration. Registration, then retention. Retention means how long the memorize the things in your mind. As I can one example also. For example, the teacher taught some topic today at around 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Within 24 hours time, if you are not revise it, if you are not recall it, if you are not relearning it, what happens, you know? Nearly 60%, 2/3 of whatever you learned will be deleted from your mind. It is one study of Ebbinghaus. One research study tells that within 24 hours time, whatever we learn, whatever we express, if you or not revise it, relearn it, and what happens? 2/3 of our experience, whatever you can say, learning aspect, it will be deleted from your mind. Within 1 month, if you are not at all read that, if you are not at all revise it, relearn it, after 30 days, only some 18 or 20% will be in your mind. The rest of the 80% will be deleted. So that is the reason after completion of lesson or the topics explanation or lectures, better to revise it within the same date is for 1 or 2 times. This all comes under retention. First one is registration or recognition. Why recognition or registration means here in our brain, some system of coding and encoding, neurons and neurons, they will respond it. So when you are observing, when you are concentrating your mind on particular topic or subject, so these neurons and neurons will be responded. So due to that responding, coding and encoding. That is the first level of our memory. Then retention, as I mentioned. Third one is the relearning. Relearning also different ways. One is short term, that is part learning, whole learning. Part learning, no whole learning. Next one is recalling. Then final one is the reproducing. Got it? This is the way of memory, and we want to improve that memory. This is the best technique to improve the memory. It's recalling, relearning, that is part learning, whole learning. Then reproducing the same form and the same order. So another important aspect of forgetfulness is the, as I mentioned, emotional, psychological reasons. Psychological reasons, emotions, anxiety, depression, stressful conditions, fearfulness. These are all some factors which impact on the forgetfulness. For example, some children or some students, they will read perfectly, properly. Their expectation may be 80 marks or 90 marks out of 100 marks. But due to their fear of examination, due to their anxiety, due to their stressful conditions or phobic conditions, they lose at least 20% of marks. Out of 90, they'll get only 70 marks. What is the reason behind it? Means only emotional reason, or we can say psychological reason. So it leads to forgetfulness. Though they'll prepare properly, their expectation will be somehow 90 or 80%, but due to their emotional issues or psychological issues, they may not be in a position to present the orders, present these topics in a systematic way in examination hall. Means it's also one type of forgetfulness which causes due to the psychological reasons. Got it? Any doubt? If you have any doubt, it is 3 minutes we are going close to topic now. After it's 11:27 now, it is 3 minutes we can conclude the lesson topic. So,
excuse me, sir. Sir?
Yes.
Sir, techniques and this both are same, sir, methods of learning.
One is definition of memory, number 1. Number 2, stages of memory, number 2. Number 3 is types of memory. Number 4, techniques. Actually, this is not in your syllabus, it's out of syllabus, but still it is the examination pointer. That is the reason. See, whatever the material provided by the university, repeated, I am telling you, very limited material. Some of you are going to submit the assignments, no? Even the assignments also, if you only copy this material and if you submit the assignments, you will get only a minimum marks. Better to reference other books. Only a limited book. Your psychological principles the book is provided by the university is the limited this information is very. Okay. Anything else?
Sir, but I went through with other online material and other subjects also, sir, basing on that.
Other?
But other books like online material like IGNA material and all. But the amount of information what Brau has provided us, that is we believe that is more than they have given in detail when compared to others. They have given in a brief structure in other form.
I didn't get you. You are talking about the other books.
Yes, sir. Even other books which we have.
Other books are already in other books. See, for example, Introductory to Psychology. That is one book I already suggested previously. Introduction to Psychology. That is other's name is Veena and Parmeshwaran. That is one book. Another one is General Psychology. General Psychology is that is also available. Printed version also available. General Psychology. The author of General Psychology, S.K. Mangal. If you want to go for the advanced psychology, that is also available by S.K. Mangal. Advanced psychology, general psychology, intellectual psychology. There are the various books available in the market. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
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 Better to submit an assessment assignment.
Thank you, sir.
But we have already completed our assignments before our online classes have started. So now, basing on the books and the online survey, we have written. I don't know about others. Then I have to rewrite by collecting from this, by getting the books and getting another more information as a marks point of view. Otherwise, for the study, getting the knowledge wise, then so it's okay. Shall I rewrite it again?